multiple hospitalizations. He's 98 years. I like to open with some death and illness. It's a way that I can kind of get, it's an upbeat thing. Not everybody does it, but that is the news of the day. So, in the 4 o'clock hour, Chuck Negron, one of the founding members of the Three Dog Night, he will join us at 4 o'clock. KFI AM 640, heard everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Mark Thompson here, into the KFI 24-hour newsroom in Layla Mahan.
You just mentioned this. Actor Tom Sizemore has suffered a brain aneurysm at his home in L.A. The 61-year-old actor has had roles in several films, including Saving Private Ryan, War of the 4th of July, and Black Hawk Down. He's in critical condition. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has met with China's top diplomat in the first high-level contact between the two countries since the U.S. shot down the Chinese spy balloon 2 weeks ago. And thousands of Japanese fans have bid farewell to a beloved Japanese-born giant panda that made her final public appearance before flying to her home country, China. Today's viewing at the Tokyo Zoo was limited to 2,600 people who won their tickets in an extremely competitive lottery. We're checking out traffic on the 210 next.
Contractor license 1047-781. Here are some homeowner headaches we fix again. One is our heating rejuvenation, where we help to prevent performing 6 critical adjustments for just $129. Another one is more on-call unit drain for just $80 with a 30-foot drain sink. And we're on call 24/7, 365 days a year. And our drain clearance service is just $80. So nice, I said it twice. Gale Air Conditioning and Plumbing. GOETTL.com. We do things the right way, not the easy way.
A crash on the 210 in Arcadia.
The Foothill Freeway eastbound at Santa Anita Avenue. The carpool lane is going to be blocked. Slow traffic from Baldwin Avenue through Norco. Overturned vehicle on 15 northbound at 2nd Street. Right lane they're taken away. And the Mid-City was 10 here. The westbound South 7 off the freeway. That's a slow drive from Crenshaw to about 4th Street. Montebello still have trouble on 60 westbound at Findlay. A stalled bus in the right lane. Looks like they are starting to clear that out. So some good news there. KFI in the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Mark Ealer.
Seriously, my dealership just fixed the transmission.
We all know how easy it can be to go to the wrong place for transmission repair. Made up of over 800 pieces, the transmission is the most complex part of your car. So bring it to the transmission experts at AMCO. AMCO, always the right fix. AA, MCO. Special financing available. Restrictions, limitations, and exclusions may apply. See AMCO.com for complete details.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance can protect your small business with over 30 coverage options, an easy-to-use mobile app, personalized discounts, and more. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Discounts and coverage selections not available in states and situations.
If we watch out for everybody who's mentally ill in this country and we do a good job following the mentally ill and making sure they don't kill people, our gun problems will be over, okay? Now what? Let's move on to something important. Bill handles how many In-N-Out burgers are going to be allowed in a given city. That is an issue. Live 6 to 9 a.m. on KFI and on demand anytime on the iHeartRadio app.
What up, everybody? It is a Sunday. We wrap up the weekend on KFI AM 640. Heard everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Watching several stories, one of which I referenced a moment ago. That's the murder probe that's been launched in the fatal shooting of what they call the Peacemaker Bishop in Los Angeles. I mean, this is Bishop David O'Connell, a man of deep prayer, according to one official, and he's described as the Peacemaker. He was involved in various trying to broker peace between gangs and factionalized groups within the city. Loved by many, and now a murder investigation is underway, as I say. One of the stories we're following also, cooler temperatures and light rain expected to come back to LA this week. I'll touch on that in a minute because it's kind of key in terms of snow melt and runoff, and it's kind of, given our water situation, good to know. And Meta is rolling out a new paid verification subscription service for Instagram and Facebook users. You heard Layla mention that top of the hour news, and I'm chuckling because it's like everybody wants to get on the party where you can charge users to get a check. Everybody they were just pearl clutching around Elon Musk doing it on Twitter. Oh my God, how can you charge for the blue check? The blue check is so sacred. It comes when you've achieved a certain level of society. And then Musk came in, of course, bought Twitter, overpaid for it, had to make up the money somehow. So he charged for the blue check, and after that, you could buy the blue check. So it was no longer necessarily reflective of anything more than that you had $8 a month or whatever to buy the blue check. So now everybody's getting in on it in the form of Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. So you can soon buy your verification. There may be some additional paperwork, but it does come down to money. So, as I mentioned, it's going to get cold. This is the mildest day for the next few days. We've had record low temperatures across the state. I mean, from Eureka all the way down to San Diego. Wind chills have dropped into single digits in some Southern California mountain areas. Freeze warnings across the coast. And one of the things that's good about this is that we've had a lot of snow. The snowpack, I think it's 236% of normal. You'd think that would get us out of drought concerns, but remember, this is a mega drought that has taken place over multiple seasons. So you don't get out of that with even a month full of gully washers. And that's what we had. We had these atmospheric rivers. But you do have a usable and important snowpack, as I just mentioned. So why is the cold temperature important? Because you don't want a rapid snow melt now. You want a cold winter to follow those snows, because a cold winter allows you to retain that snowpack, and with a slower release of the water can be used much more responsibly and is much more valuable. Less runs off. So maintaining mountain snowpack is a tremendously important thing. And the other thing you should know, and just kind of a weird fact how all this stuff comes together, is that the fires that have taken out so much forestry around California, not just Southern California, but in the north as well, they have created a different kind of snow melt, because you don't have now the tree canopies that you used to have that protected snow that had fallen from a lot of sunlight. Now you have sun beating down on those burn areas, and that snow, and regardless of how deep it is and how water-filled it is, that snow melting under that sun. So this is and I have left out all the flooding concerns and all the rest if the snow melts too quickly. But so far in this relatively dry February, the one blessing is that we have such cold air to hopefully retain some of that snowpack at high levels. So that's and the skiing, I guess, and snowboarding has got to be terrific. But February is usually our wettest month, I spent years as a distinguished weather forecaster, and I can tell you, February is our wettest month. And it has been anything but wet so far. So, look, we've had a great season. It would be nice to have a little late inning rally. There will be rain, they say, later this week. But that said, we're not looking at anything on the level of what we saw in January. So it's a weird thing that the Ohio train derailment, it's now being talked about in a way that I didn't think we'd hear in America for a long time. One of the things I lamented, one of the things that really bummed me out, but I also thought it could be, to use the overused phrase, a teachable moment, was when that Ohio train derailment hit. I thought, this is everything wrong with our political culture in America in this one train wreck. And here's what I meant. It's regulations that have been bought and paid for, so they're rolled back, right? by now you must know the braking, right? There was regulation placed upon railways and freighters to freight trains to institute electronic braking as opposed to pneumatic braking. Okay, the braking system is a Civil War braking system that they used. And then they rolled that regulation back in the last administration. But that wasn't just that. The length of the train. That was something that used to be regulated. But, donations, political donations made, and they rolled that back. And so now you had a much, much longer train than, and it's filled with these toxic chemicals, and I'll get to that in a second, than you normally would have, or you might have had regulations and responsible protections. We call them regulations. I call them protections. These are basic protections for community. You can always cancel burdensome regulations. Well, talk to those people in Ohio, they would love to have some of those burdensome regulations. I call them, again, protections. These are basic protections for communities through which these trains are passing. And then finally, the last thing, and that is the manning of this, the staffing of this train. It was understaffed. This is one of the things that those railway workers were complaining about. Remember, they threatened to go on strike because they weren't getting the sick days that they wanted, and there weren't enough people on these trains. Staff was way less, and the people aboard were not sufficient in number to watch over these trains all. It was argued. And in this particular case, you had 3 people, I think, or maybe 4 on board. One was a trainee. And so because all of these regulations were moved back, because they were forced back to work, all this sort of thing, we end up in this situation. And it's truly a situation that could have happened anywhere. It ended up happening in Palestine, Ohio, could happen anywhere. But then finally, the last thing when it comes, so that's all the train stuff. But the last thing when it comes to the way we do business here in America is, let's face it, they had a chance to, because all these regulations were lifted, they had a chance to essentially buy politicians through political donations and the rest, and they got those various regulations rolled back, protections rolled back. And then when it comes time to clean up the mess, they're nowhere to be found. You call FEMA, you call the feds, you call the EPA. But you and I, as taxpayers, we got to clean that mess up. Well, how come the chemical companies and the rail companies aren't involved? Well, now for the first time, I'm seeing that there is now enough noise being made about that they might actually be involved. They won't be involved, I promise you, to the degree they should be. I mean, we're talking about a poisoning of water and poisoning of soil and air to the point that you've got fish, you've got farm animals dropping dead from this. That same toxic water is ending up in the Mississippi River. In Pittsburgh, they're testing. In Cincinnati, they're testing the water. So I'm making a point simply that, we give these businesses and corporations, and I love America. It's a great place. You can realize your dreams. All these great things can happen in America because we do give businesses breaks. They get them through tax benefits, and they get them through subsidies of one sort or another. And then when they become powerful and big enough, they buy politicians. And they don't end up having to own any of the damage they do. That just ain't the way it should be, right? Great. Take the benefits, take the support, but also be there when it's time to remediate all the toxicity in the air, soil, and water around Palestine, Ohio, and beyond. We've seen it here in Southern California, in Vernon. Remember where a company just declares bankruptcy because they don't want to have to actually be involved in the toxic cleanup. Look it up. Google it. It's another tried and true way to get out of responsibility. So, anyway, that's what's happening in the Ohio train derailment, and I think, could this have been avoided with the braking systems updated? Probably not. But you would not have had the damage. The train would have been able to stop much more quickly. Many experts agree that it would not have been as terribly toxic a situation, literally, were it not for the fact that so many of these regulations have been rolled back through the years. and roll. I'm sure he doesn't like being referred to that way, but he really was in that time. From 3 Dog Night, Chuck and Dave Connell joined us at 4 o'clock. More news from California when we come back. Interesting poll from Californians. And where was the story about the cop? Yeah, I think this is a really wild story. You saw what happened with that off-duty Chicago cop? This is a story that has a lot wrapped up in it. Off-duty, jumped by a guy who tries to steal his gun. He shoots him, killed him. Now his family is suing. We'll talk about it next. Mark Townsend here on KFI AM 640, heard everywhere, the iHeartRadio app, now into the KFI 24-hour newsroom. Layla Muhammad.
A bishop of the Archdiocese of LA has been shot and killed in Huffy in the Heights. 69-year-old Bishop David O'Connell was found dead yesterday afternoon in a home on General Avenue. O'Connell has served as a priest and later bishop in the Los Angeles area for the past 45 years. Authorities are investigating O'Connell's death as a homicide. A search and rescue team from the LA County Sheriff's Department has returned from the scene of that massive earthquake in Turkey.
Mike Leon says hours after the quake, he reached out to the Turkish consulate, which got the ball rolling on that. But since the whole team was made up of volunteers, we had to figure out how to get over there and where to stay. So we got in touch with the buddy at UPS, who worked it out with one of their vendors.
They arranged for us to get comp flight round trip from Turkish Airlines. They were super excited to be able to fly us over there. And then I raised private money to pay for a hotel and incidental like car rentals and stuff like that.
Liam remembers last Saturday when they got their first assignment from Turkish officials. He recorded the experience.
And so we go to that location, and sure enough, there's a woman's voice being you can hear deep under the rubble. And then during this process of trying to get access to her, then a second voice was heard, and it turns out that it was this woman's son, who was 18 years old. So after about 4 hours, we finally got both of them out.
What was that scene like?
Pretty much what we were anticipating. It was kind of like almost like an Armageddon kind of scene. You have nothing but huge piles of rubble where there used to be 15-story apartment buildings.
The team spent 7 days there and rescued 3 people. They all used their own personal vacation time to go. Steve Gregory, KFI News.
The town of East Palestine, Ohio, will be receiving more help after a train derailed to release toxic materials earlier this month. FEMA officials are now on the ground there to help coordinate long-term recovery needs. Residents of the small town are concerned over potential impacts to their health. Officials say the air and water quality tests have come back clean, but not everyone in the town of about 2,000 is convinced. North Korea has launched 3 suspected ballistic missiles. Japan's Coast Guard issued an alert to vessels Monday morning local time. The agency also told vessels to stay away from falling objects and report any sightings to the Coast Guard. South Korea's joint chief of staff said North Korea has fired at least 1 unidentified ballistic missile into the waters off the east coast of the Korean peninsula. North Korea had acknowledged it conducted a test yesterday of the intercontinental ballistic missile. There's a crash on the 405 in Culver City.
This is a motorcycle accident here, the 405 southbound in Venice to about Washington Boulevard. It's going to be heavy and slow. But they've reopened the lanes here, but it's still backed up and heavy. Through Arcadia, we have Purple Lane on the 210, the Foothill Freeway, the eastbound side at Santa Anita Avenue. Stop traffic from Sierra Madre. And a slow drive through Moreno Valley, the 60 eastbound of Frederick Street, crashing the right lane, stop and go from Bay Street. KFI in the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Mark Wheeler. And as for the fitness, take advantage of premium fitness amenities with a free 3-day pass. Sign up today at startesportofitness.com. Get more workout for less with features like state-of-the-art strength and cardio equipment, free weights, a functional training area, and so much more. It's time to start fresh for less with our $0 enrollment fee. From battle ropes to box jumps, iron push to treadmill.
annual fees. Must pay first and last month's dues of $29.99 to join. Terms and conditions apply. Amenities and facilities may vary.
Across Tucker, here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by DraftKings.
It's Team LeBron against Team Giannis in the NBA All-Star Game tonight. They'll draft their rosters before the game. Angels and Dodgers position players officially report to spring training tomorrow for the first full squad workouts. Pitchers and catchers reported last week. And Tiger Woods ran out of gas in his final round of the Genesis Invitational, tailing off to finish at 2 over par and 1 under for the tournament. I'm Andy Betts.
Hey, it's Ross Tucker. If you'd like to make games a little more interesting, download and listen to the newest episode of the Even Money Podcast that DraftKings releasing every Tuesday, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Football and betting, the Even Money Podcast.
Southland weather from KFI overnight. Temperatures mostly in the 40s. Tomorrow's President's Day, mostly sunny skies with highs in the upper 60s to low 70s inland, mid to upper 60s along the coast, upper 50s in the high desert. Will be in the 50s, low 50s by Friday with a chance for rain beginning Wednesday. Right now it's 64 in La Habra, 64 in Rancho Cucamonga. We lead local, live on the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Layla Mohammed.
Hey, are you looking for a hard-to-find appliance? Well, you're going to use my secret weapon, WBC Kitchen and Bath Center. No one has more in-stock and hard-to-find appliances than WBC. Go to WBCappliances.com, WBCappliances.com. At Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, we know the importance of giving our clients more experience, more results. With lawyers ready to fight for you. Need more reasons? Get covered more than $15 billion and have more offices nationwide. But don't take our word for it. Check out any of our more than 28,000 five-star Google reviews from our clients. So, if you've been injured at work or in a car accident, remember, you deserve more. And we at Morgan & Morgan are ready to fight to get you just that. More. Don't wait. Dial pound law or visit borderpeople.com for an office near you.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. When you call America's largest injury firm, you get the backing of a national firm, along with a dedicated team from your community, handpicked by us. When you need a fighter, you need us. Call America's largest injury law firm. Call Morgan & Morgan for the people.com.
Life is uncertain. It's a plan to feel stressed, anxious, worried, or frustrated. It's normal. With CalNote's free and secure mental health resources, it's easy to get the help you and your loved ones need. When you get the help, call our warm line at 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org today.
I didn't sleep well.
I hate it when you can't turn your mind off.
Once in a while, I'll take melatonin. I have the most horrific dreams of zombie kittens. I mean, it's the weirdest stuff. The dreams you have with that are off the charts. It's crazy.
Gary and Shannon.
So don't do it.
Live 9 to 1 p.m. on KFI and on demand anytime on the iHeartRadio app.
KFI AM 648, Mark Thompson here. It is Sunday afternoon. We're watching these stories in the KFI newsroom, kind of keeping an eye on the situation of that Catholic bishop who was shot dead in Hacienda Heights. There are really many more questions and answers on this one. Tom Sizemore's in critical condition, suffering a brain aneurysm. Richard Belzer, the longtime Law & Order SVU actor, passes away at 78. And cooler temperatures after today. It'll be light rain expected later in the week. And definitely cooler temperatures getting back to the area as well. In the next hour, I mentioned Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night. Also, if you have dreamt of having your own podcast, I know you probably do already have it. I think everybody has a podcast now. As a podcaster, I dry docked my podcast when I got the radio show. I was doing a radio show every day. And so I just put the show, my podcast is still around, but in past episodes, I haven't done any new episodes. And then when the radio station went away, I took the entire radio show and moved it to YouTube. And this brings me to the second thing. We're going to talk about launching a YouTube show versus launching a podcast. What could be more beneficial to you? What is easier to do? All of after our conversation with Chuck Negron. So my YouTube show, if you're curious, is called The Mark Thompson Show. I know we could spend a lot of time on the name. Could have spent maybe a meeting or two changing, but it was the name of the radio show, so since you're bringing everything over, we're going to keep it the same. So it's on 10 to noon live every day on YouTube. But you can see it. The thing about YouTube, it's like a podcast. You can see it anytime. You can listen to it whenever you want. So you could like listen to Gary and Shannon live, and then you could listen to my show, the Mark Thompson Show, whenever you want on YouTube. The only thing I ask is if you, this is a selfish request, but it's a request doesn't cost you anything. Please go there on YouTube. You just put into the search bar, the Mark Thompson Show, and subscribe. And when you reach a certain number of subscribers, you're allowed certain things. You can, to be honest, I'm not even sure what things you can do, but I know it's better to get more subscribers. So we're looking for 10,000. Only been on the air 3 months. So we're almost there. We're almost there. 9,100, I think. We're close to 9,100. So if everybody listening could go to YouTube and subscribe to the Mark Thompson Show. Cost you nothing. You don't have to overwatch it if you don't want to. It'd be great if you could check it out. You might enjoy it, but you don't have to. So, anyway, we're going to talk about that as well. Launching YouTube, launching podcast, one versus the other. So if you've ever toyed with the idea, we'll tell you some of the particulars in the next hour. The off-duty cop. It's amazing from so many different standpoints, I think. First, that the entire thing was captured on surveillance video, and that an entire community go and watch an off-duty Chicago cop try to fight off a would-be robber outside of this apartment building on the south side of Chicago. Warn the guy, get off of me, I'm going to shoot you. Ultimately, she shoots him again, and she threatens killing him, and he still wouldn't let go. And of course, one of the shots, or the collection of shots, ended up killing him. I mean, he wrestled with her to the very end. Now, that family of that guy who is now dead, the would-be robber, is suing the Chicago Police Department. Here's a little something on it.
The Chicago Office of Police Accountability has just released video of a deadly shooting involving an off-duty officer. This video shows her walking up to the 4 people near 1300 West 90th Street. This is on January 18th. 3 of the people would walk away. The 4th, the police identified as Levon Smith, stayed. Now, as the officer began to walk away, the video shows Smith grabbing her from behind and reaching for her gun.
They got a whole surprise. Yeah, I just saw his brother.
Yeah, I told you I was going to shoot you, didn't I? Didn't I? Didn't I say I'd kill you, she said? The off-duty officer continues saying, you thought I was playing? I told you I'd shoot you. He tried to steal a gun from me. Call the police, is what you yelled. I don't know how you do the arithmetic on this and not be completely on the officer's side. I mean, you can tell me she didn't render enough assistance. Is that the problem? And look, this guy jumped this cop. The cop was off duty. She tried to shake the guy loose. She pulled a weapon. She told him, stop, I'm going to shoot you. He didn't stop. She shot him. Then he still didn't stop. I just don't see how there is a lawsuit from the family of the victim. The arrest report showed the officer was treated for a laceration above her eye. Records show that multiple people placed 911 calls about the incident, including the off-duty officer. The off-duty officer, in her 911 call, told that his dispatchers, I'm trying to call my bosses, but ain't no one answering for me. She told the dispatchers that she was a cop and that this guy Smith had tried to steal her off-duty weapon. Apparently Smith was well known to law enforcement. This was not his first run-in. Cook County prosecutors had approved felony charges of aggravated battery and attempted robbery against him in connection with a different incident. One day before, the Chicago police officer shot him. Smith's family, though, as I mentioned, and this is, I think, just the weirdest term, has filed a lawsuit against the officer and the city of Chicago. The lawsuit is for excessive and violent physical force being used, and claiming that such force was not necessary in light of the circumstances. Again, I don't get it. I don't see how you can. Sorry. I mean, I know there are a lot of these situations. There's a gray area, the fog of war, whatever. This does not seem to be a gray area situation. But that's that. In the 4 o'clock hour, we'll kick off with a conversation with one of the founding members of Three Dog Night. His movie is a movie. It should be a movie. It's a book called Three Dog Nightmare. And the newest edition is out. He's also got a bunch of stuff that he does. He's kind of a social media fixture. So we'll discuss some of that. Chuck Negron will be with us in the 4 o'clock hour. Mark Hoffman here on KFI AM 640. Heard everywhere in the iHeartRadio app now. Let him on in the KFI 24-hour newsroom.
Police are investigating the shooting death of a lone-serving Catholic bishop in Hockey in the Heights yesterday as a homicide. Classes will resume at Michigan State University tomorrow, 1 week after 3 students were killed in a mass shooting. Meta is testing a new subscription service that will let Facebook and Instagram users pay for a verified account and receive a blue badge. We're checking out traffic next.
Nice, convenient location. This great brand. Get super prices on a super selection during the North Reef President's Day event at North Reef Superstore. From West Covina to the Cerritos Auto Square, and from Huntington Beach to the Irvine Auto Center, you'll find a North Reef Superstore near you. Or Lincoln, Hyundai, Genesis, Volkswagen, and Honda. We have your favorite new models in stock. Plus, get total peace of mind when you purchase, thanks to our exclusive price protection guarantee, which states if you can find the same new vehicle for less within 5 days, your rate will pay you the difference or buy your vehicle back. The price protection guarantee provides assurance, so there is no need to shop anywhere else. Don't miss the Northridge President's Day event. Test drive today at a Northridge Superstore location, like the #1 Honda store in the world, in the Cerritos Auto Square, or shop online at northridge.com. That's the Global Honda Vehicle Sales 2022.
A crash on the 210 in Arcadia.
The Foothill Freeway, it's eastbound side at Santa Anita Avenue, carpool lane there, left lane block, stop traffic from Sierra Madre. CHP's estimating about a 30-minute wait there, so I'd avoid it if you can. In Moreno Valley, trouble on the 60 eastbound at Frederick Street, crash there has been slowed from Day Street. And in Culver City, trouble on the 405 southbound at Venice to about Washington Boulevard. Earlier crash there is off to the right, but stop and go all the way back to Getty Center Drive through to Sepulveda Pass. KFI in the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Mark Wheeler. This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business needs, from quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options. Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Book today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Guy is deep transmission fluid.
Seriously? I feel like it's